Can you just mention a little bit about, because I think people don't really sort of fully grasp how they've tried to hook us on things like
Yeah.
endless scrolling. Like it wasn't always endless scrolling, and now it's just
Yeah.
endless scrolling. And how that in and of itself is one of the things that just gets you.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, also to give people context, my background going into this was as a kid, I was a magician, which is all about recognizing that the human mind is not this like authoritative instrument that sees reality and cause and effect perfectly. Magic is all about saying, well, where could that mind be undermined, hijacked, manipulated without the other person's awareness? And obviously, magic is a field that works, so obviously it's possible that that's true. I think to your point, I studied at a lab at Stanford called the Stanford Persuasive Technology Lab with the founders of Instagram and many other people who went on to become the people who created this industry. A professor named BJ Fogg, and what we learned in that course is what are all of these vulnerabilities in the human mind, and the same way that a magician is looking for them. So, social approval. One of these funny examples about persuasion is there's some kinds of persuasion where even if you know that it's a persuasive trick, it actually still works on you. So, for example, flattery feels good even if I tell you it's completely made up. Like, Dave, I actually love the shirt that you're wearing. It's a great shirt.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And if I was bullshitting you, you would still feel good, even because it's just that's how our minds work. We actually seek social approval. So there I am if I'm Instagram and like, people really like social approval. What if I actually gave you variable doses, variable squirts of social approval on a random timeline? And every single time you check your phone, you could get just a little bit more. That is such deep ingrained psychology that's how these things can be designed. So to your example about infinite scroll, it wasn't always that we built technology to just scroll forever. In fact, my co-founder at our nonprofit, the Center for Humane Technology, Asa Raskin, actually invented the infinite scroll, and he gave talks all around Silicon Valley. He estimates that it wastes something like, gosh, I'm forgetting the number. It's like 700,000 hours a day or some crazy number.
Jesus.
And the point was that your mind, so one of the features of our mind is it relies on these things called stopping cues. In a conversation, how do you know when to leave? Because the person stops talking. That creates a gap. That's a stopping cue. And thank God, because you didn't want to be in that conversation, so you get to walk away. And we all know those people who don't give us those stopping cues. They keep talking. They don't give us that stopping cue. So you have to eject yourself. And that's kind of like what's happening with technology. In the race to the bottom of the brainstem for who's going to go lower, in your brainstem to get attention, removing that stopping cue, saying, you used to scroll and then it would say, hey, do you want to load more? Load 10 more stories. And then you scroll and you get 10 more stories. Almost portion sizing, how much we're giving attention out. But as soon as, like, let's say Facebook says, you know what, we're going to take away that stopping cue, we're going to go to infinite scroll. Then Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the other companies, they have to do the same thing too. They have to match it because it's like game theory. If you have 10 nukes, I have to have 10 nukes. If you have, if you remove infinite scroll, I have to remove the stopping cues. I have to remove the stopping cues. And so that's how this stuff works. But it's gotten so powerful that, and it's also embedded into our lives that it's sort of like saying someone has made my arm not as useful to me as possible, but as useful to getting me to reach for things for them as they want it to do.
Ugh.
And when there's that entanglement, that's what's so hard. And I think it speaks a little bit to the antitrust hearings that just happened in Washington, D.C. A couple days ago, which is the premise that like these things that are so intimately woven into our lives have to be more neutrally in our interest, made for the public interest and not for commercial interest. Because, if I was a neurosurgeon and I put a brain implant into your brain and it was driven by the business model of advertising and what I wanted you to think about, we would say, no, we don't allow brain implants that do that. That's a bad business model for brain implants. But when we create a brain implant called a smartphone, yet we've done it. And it's funny, I talked to the Neuralink guys, which is the Elon Musk company too. And, like they're kind of veering into that terrain, as well. I think this is the kind of thing we have to actually really think about. And what's so interesting is that you going on this break for a month is kind of like saying, I'm going to forcibly take out the neuro implant, which means I lose access to, the fast news processing and who said what and infinite anxiety fed to you on a silver platter. And we have that agency, but it's this kind of all or nothing choice, as opposed to, wouldn't it be nice if we had humane brain implants that weren't commercialized, that weren't so adversarial to our interests, and actually, helped us be more responsible with how we use our attention?